The night the most feared mafia boss in the city heard that his fake wife had been kidnapped, everyone expected him to negotiate. They expected him to stay calm, to act like the cold-hearted man who had built an empire from fear and blood. But nobody knew that the one person who had ever seen his wounded heart was now in the hands of his enemies. And when the message arrived with a picture of her terrified eyes, something inside him broke. For years, Kaelen Voss had been known as a ruthless man. A name whispered in dark streets, a man whose enemies disappeared before they could even finish their threats. He had no family, no weakness, and no mercy. At least, that was what everyone believed. But then there was Maribel Ardent. She was not the kind of woman anyone expected beside a powerful mafia leader. She was soft, cheerful, and a little chubby, with a habit of laughing at her own mistakes and caring about strangers even when the world had never shown her kindness. Their marriage had started as a deal, a fake arrangement designed to protect both of their futures. Kaelen needed a wife to silence his rivals who believed he had no emotional attachments. Maribel needed protection from people who wanted to take advantage of her family's debts. Neither of them expected the fake relationship to slowly become the only real thing in their lives. Before we begin this emotional journey, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of a good heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to Heart Kindness Tales for more inspiring stories. At first, Kaelen treated Maribel like a responsibility. He provided her with security, expensive clothes, and a luxurious home, but he kept his distance. He was a man who believed emotions were dangerous weapons that enemies could use against him. Maribel, however, never feared him. She noticed things nobody else did. She noticed how he quietly helped struggling workers in his organization. She noticed how he stayed awake at night because of nightmares from his past. She noticed the sadness hidden behind his cold expression. While everyone else saw a monster, Maribel saw a lonely man. She never tried to change him. She simply showed him kindness every day. She would leave warm meals on his desk when he forgot to eat. She would sit nearby when he worked late, quietly reading a book so he did not feel alone. She would smile at him even when he answered with silence. Slowly, the walls around Kaelen began to fall. He started coming home earlier. He started listening to her stories. He even began laughing, something his closest men had not seen him do in years. But their happiness attracted attention. A rival gang led by a dangerous man named Roderick Vale had been waiting for a weakness in Kaelen's empire. They believed Maribel was that weakness. They thought the fake wife was only a decoration, a person Kaelen would sacrifice if necessary. They were wrong. One evening, Maribel went to a small neighborhood bakery because she wanted to surprise Kaelen with his favorite dessert. She had no idea she was being followed. The moment she stepped outside, several black vehicles surrounded the street. Before she could understand what was happening, she was taken. When Kaelen arrived home and saw the untouched dinner she had prepared, something felt wrong. Then his phone rang. The voice on the other end carried a cruel laugh. "Your little wife belongs to us now." For a moment, the world stopped. Kaelen looked at the message they sent him. It was a picture of Maribel sitting in a dark room, her hands tied, fear in her eyes. But what hurt him most was not the danger. It was the fact that she looked like she was trying to stay strong. Even while terrified, Maribel had written a small message on the floor with a piece of broken glass. "Kay, don't blame yourself." Those words destroyed the last piece of control he had. Everyone in the room watched as Kaelen slowly placed his phone down. His expression became calm, but his eyes changed. The man who had built an empire through fear was no longer fighting for power. He was fighting for the woman who had taught him what love felt like. His entire organization prepared for war. But Kaelen refused to rush blindly. He knew Roderick wanted him angry. He wanted him to make mistakes. So Kaelen became colder than ever. He studied every movement, every hidden connection, every possible location. Meanwhile, Maribel was trapped in an abandoned building far from the city. Roderick expected her to beg. He expected her to cry and reveal Kaelen's secrets. Instead, she surprised him. She looked at him and calmly said that a person who needed to hurt innocent people to feel powerful was already weak. Her courage confused him. Nobody spoke to Roderick that way. He had spent years believing fear was the only way to control people. But Maribel's kindness made him uncomfortable because it reminded him of something he had lost long ago. Humanity. As hours passed, Maribel tried to escape. She watched the guards, remembered their routines, and waited for the right moment. She was not a fighter. She was not trained like Kaelen. But she was brave. Back at the mansion, Kaelen discovered that Maribel had secretly helped several people in his organization. She remembered names, families, and struggles. She had treated everyone with respect, even people who feared Kaelen. For the first time, his own people were not fighting because of money or loyalty. They were fighting because they cared about the woman who had cared about them. The rescue mission began during a stormy night. Rain covered the streets as Kaelen moved toward the enemy's hideout. His men surrounded the building, but Kaelen entered alone. Roderick smiled when he saw him. "You came here for a fake wife?" Kaelen looked at him with a dangerous calm. "She was fake to the world," he said. "But she became the only real thing in my life." The words shocked everyone. The mafia boss who had never admitted weakness had finally admitted love. A fight broke out, but Kaelen was not the same man he had been before. He was not fighting with hatred. He was fighting with purpose. Inside the building, Maribel heard the chaos and realized Kaelen had come. When she finally escaped her room, she saw him standing there. For a second, neither of them moved. Then Maribel ran toward him. Kaelen caught her, holding her tightly as if he was afraid she would disappear again. For the first time in years, the feared mafia boss looked completely broken. "I thought I lost you," he whispered. Maribel looked up at him and said nothing. She simply held him tighter. That moment changed everything. Kaelen realized he had spent his entire life protecting himself from pain, but in doing so, he had also kept himself away from happiness. Maribel showed him that strength was not only about being feared. Sometimes, true strength was caring enough to risk everything. After that night, Kaelen changed. He was still powerful. Still respected. Still someone people did not want as an enemy. But he was different. He began using his influence to protect innocent people instead of only controlling territory. He helped families who had been forgotten and gave opportunities to people who had no hope. And Maribel stayed beside him. Their marriage had started as a lie. But it became the most honest thing either of them had ever experienced. Months later, Kaelen surprised Maribel with a small garden behind their home. Nothing extravagant. Nothing meant to impress anyone. Just a peaceful place where they could sit together. Maribel smiled and asked why he built it. Kaelen looked at her and said that she had spent her whole life bringing warmth into places filled with darkness. He wanted to give her a place where she could finally receive the same kindness she always gave. The woman who had once been called an unlikely match for a ruthless mafia boss became the reason that boss discovered his own heart. And the man everyone feared became a man worth believing in. Because sometimes the person who changes your life is not someone who matches your power. Sometimes it is someone who sees your broken pieces and chooses to stay. If this story touched your heart, please support this video by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Your engagement helps these stories reach more people who need a reminder that kindness can change even the coldest hearts. Before the story ends, comment, "Kindness wins," if you believe love, compassion, and second chances can transform someone's life. Because behind every strong person, there may be a hidden battle. And sometimes, one kind soul is enough to bring someone back from the darkness.